Hey babes in Bookland. Today I'm going to be doing the My Pleasure tag. This was originated by Steve Partridge and I was tagged by Robert at Barter Hordes, so thank you so much for tagging me. Before I start, I just want to make a quick correction to my last tag that I did, the 6 Degrees of Separation tag. In that, I stated that Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto had a quote from Sonic Youth. That wasn't entirely accurate. When I went back through the text, I saw that there wasn't a direct quote. But at the time, she was very influenced by Sonic Youth and was listening to a lot of their music at the time. And another book that she wrote, I believe she made a dedication to Sonic Youth. So even though there wasn't a direct quote in the book, I'm still going to maintain the connection because she was influenced by Sonic Youth at the time she was writing Kitchen. So just for the sake of honesty and clarity, I just wanted to rectify that. So without further ado, let's get into the My Pleasure tag. So prompt number 1 is Think, a book that made you think hard. For this selection, I went with King Leopold's Ghost by Adam Hochschild. I think I said that right. I remember reading this in school and it's stayed with me as one of the most haunting and horrifying books that I've come across. I thought very long and hard about the tradition and the practice of colonialism and just the very deep and lasting scars that affected this area and this continent, but also how it continues to affect societies and cultures today. It also made me think about the seemingly limitless atrocities that humans are capable of inflicting upon each other in the name of expansion and progress and religion. Prompt number 2 is Love, a book that broke or mended your heart. For this selection, I went with My Own Country by Abraham Verghese. So this story follows Abraham Verghese as he takes an assignment in a rural Tennessee town named Johnson City. He was a young doctor at the time studying and specializing in infectious disease, and he's assigned here at the height of the HIV/AIDS crisis in America. At the time, much of the focus of the HIV/AIDS crisis was bicoastal, so much attention paid in New York and also California. But little was known about how it was affecting Middle America, particularly rural towns like Johnson City. And so this was just a very heartbreaking book, especially because there weren't resources available for people in rural towns. There was rarely any recognition about the disease itself. You know, in rural towns, it was still considered a gay disease. There was a lot of myths surrounding it. There was a lot of prejudice, a lot of discrimination. What I appreciated so much about this book is that it also incorporated the stories of the healthcare workers and community educators and advocacy groups and peer advocacy groups really trying to eradicate and or bring attention to this disease and a lot of the myths surrounding it. As you could imagine, this is a book that is very heartbreaking and it's very upsetting at points, but an extremely important read, so that's my choice for this. Prompt number 3 is Eat, a book that nourishes you. And for this selection, I went with What Matters Most is How Well You Walk Through Fire by Charles Bukowski. For a long time, anytime I was feeling a little bit out of sorts or a little bit salty or a little bit uncertain about things or situations, I would often turn to this text to be able to kind of neutralize that feeling. This was a later collection of poems. This was published in 1999, so I think there's kind of a good mixture of some settled out Charles Bukowski, but also still him maintaining some grittiness and some despair. The next prompt is Laugh, a book that brought a little comic relief. And these two, I chose two for this prompt, and they brought a lot of comic relief. So, Me Talk Pretty One Day by David Sedaris, and also Dress Your Family in Corduroy and Denim by David Sedaris. Now, these two books, I recall reading them in bed and just laughing so hard I was crying. They absolutely brought me to tears with laughter. What I like so much about these is that they're not just hilarious, they are very reflective and very sincere. And he talks about his family with such affection, if sometimes detached affection. But I just feel like David Sedaris has really elevated the art of the personal essay. And if you ever get a chance to hear him narrate some of his own stories, you can go to This American Life and just type his name into the search, and some of them will come up. His Christmas stories are so hilarious, and I think it's so enriching when you can read these books knowing what his voice sounds like, and it just lends itself so much to the comedic effect of the words. So definitely go check those out, and check these out if you haven't had a chance. Prompt number 5 is Sex, a book that explores or contains sexuality that doesn't make you cringe. So my answer for this, I'm going to cheat a little bit and go with a short story. And the one I'm going to go with is The Whore of Mensa by Woody Allen. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but this was written in 1974 and appeared for the first time in The New Yorker. The story centers around a man who goes to visit a private detective, and he's asking the private detective to help him sort of conceal a secret. And the secret is that he's been patronizing a service run by a local madam, where you can get a girl, a young college girl of any physical type you'd like, to come to a hotel room and sit there and talk to you about whatever academic subject strikes your fancy. And a lot of times the people that are patronizing the service, oftentimes men, are not getting an intellectual satisfaction from their partners. So this is something I've been wanting to take to my book club to discuss, because I think there's some really rich conversation and debate that can come out of objectification. And does objectification change when a person's intelligence is the commodity in question? Prompt number 6 is Rest, a book that gave you peace, reflection, or calms you down. So this is a book that I haven't picked up in a very long time, but this is The Heart of Understanding by Thich Nhat Hanh. I was graduating from high school when I first received this book as a gift. And I found this book to be very valuable as a person who was newly graduated from high school. I was getting ready to go off to college, but even just being a person who was going out into the world and having a lot of questions about attachment, about loneliness, about future, about temporariness of myself, and I think being that age and just having sort of a lot of existential questions and a lot of, I guess one could call it an existential crisis of sorts. This book was very helpful in getting me through that, and just was able to provide some calm and some much needed perspective. I don't pick it up that much anymore, but it serves as a really good reminder about where I came from. So this is my choice for that. The final prompt is Experience, a book that introduced you to a new subject or shifted your experience. For this, I'm going to have to go with Stiff, The Curious Lives of Human Cadavers by Mary Roach. It seems like a very morbid topic, but I think that Mary Roach treats this subject with a lot of levity and a lot of humor, but also pays it the respect that it deserves. I've been in a unique situation where I've been able to view an organ procurement surgery, and it was very special and very emotional and really a beautiful experience to see. But I think for those bodies that don't go to organ donation, it's very interesting to see how those bodies are disposed of. The various ways in which cadavers are used for research, for science, even if it's not organ donation. One of the most fascinating parts to me was a woman who I think was in Switzerland or Sweden who was trying to develop a technology to freeze bodies so that they can be broken apart into very small pieces and then used for fertilizer. So just all of the advancement and the ideas and the research that goes into developing a lot of the things that we have today, forensic sciences, for instance, how cadavers are used to make cars safer, airplanes safer by the study of how folks are dying in accidents. All of it is just, it was so fascinating and so interesting to read. So if you guys haven't checked this one out, I would highly, highly recommend it as well. So that's it for the My Pleasure tag. Thanks again to Robert at Barter Hordes for tagging me. I really appreciate that. This was really fun. And if you guys have any questions or comments about any of the books that I mentioned, definitely let me know if you guys have any thoughts about them. I would love to talk about them in the comments. But until then, I will see you guys soon. Have a great day. Bye.